I'm Rachel Horgan. Join me each episode as I sit down with a guest co-host covering the latest business stories in the Seattle area. We'll read the news so you don't have to. This is The Weekly. Welcome, everybody, to The Weekly. I'm back, and I'm here with Nick Patri, podcast consultant and friend of the podcast. Hi, Nick.
Thanks for letting me back on, Rachel.
Thank you. I skipped 2 weeks, which I don't normally do, but I had basically three back-to-back events. I had an event here locally. It was like a one-day summit. I don't know if I told you about that one. I don't think. Went fine.
Okay.
It's okay.
That's all there is to know. Not that exciting. Okay.
Well, the only thing was that somebody last minute asked for closed captioning. So we were like running around trying to figure that out. And turns out there's a feature on PowerPoint that allows you to do live closed
That makes
captioning.
sense.
Yeah.
There should be. Yeah.
Cool. And it's more, I should have known this, but we should ask in the registration form, do you need any ADA stuff? So you can like be prepared for it and not last minute. So that was my bad. But
there you go. Learning opportunity. Yes. Growth.
And then I went to New Orleans for this recent event, which I signed an NDA, so I can't say all the things, but I do want to tell you something.
So cool.
It was fun. This is an event lesson to always order samples of whatever you're getting, whether it's like a sweatshirt or a water bottle, if you're giving away to a bunch of people. So the client ordered this without us. Like this agency wasn't involved at all. They ordered these little like keychain trinkets to pass out on the trade show, like from their booth. Mm-hmm. And it's like, part of their logo, like a little like thing that pertains to what they're selling. It's just like a couple different things. And so when you look at it this way, it's like, oh, that's kind of cute, right?
Oh no.
I'm showing Nick.
Wow.
Swipe. Do you see when So when it's turned over, it's very phallic in nature.
Yes, you could say that. Yeah.
They were taken off the floor immediately. So
someone did see them. They unboxed them and thought we're good to go here.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't until they were actually being passed out, and then we had to grab them. So always get a sample, everybody.
Wow. Yeah. Lesson learned.
So yeah, I think those are kind of my big work updates. What have you been up to the past 2 weeks?
Well, I have to ask about New Orleans. Did you have any time to go out and enjoy the beautiful city?
I did have some time, yes. So we were staying in the French Quarter, which was fun. And it was 6 nights. And I feel like it's similar. It's not Vegas, but it's similar to where you're like 2 nights and you got to get out there. Like it is a lot and sensory overload for me. But I did get out to Frenchman Street, which was really cool. A lot of
music. Yes.
And I felt like people actually sit and listen to the music rather than like talking. So I appreciated that. And yeah, it's just a pop in town. People are awake and hanging out all the time. Have you been?
Just recently, earlier this year, I went for the first time. Yeah. And I think I did 4 nights, which I also was, by the end of that, needed to get home. But it was a fun trip. Great cocktail city. I love cocktails. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. My one thing I found out when the city is actually kind of asleep. One morning, I think it was the morning I was flying out. So I was up somewhat early. I went outside at like 7:30. And they were like power blasting the streets with like cleaners and stuff. Which, you don't think about those things all the time, but that place would be kind of wild to be in if they didn't do that.
Yeah,
so
true.
They do a great job of resetting it every day for it to be.
They do, yeah. And I did get one of those sketchy foot massages, and I knew
you did. Sketchy, I saw that there's so many, $10 foot massage stores or whatever.
Not $10 when you get swindled into $100.
Oh no!
I know.
I thought you were good at math.
Oh, I am good at math, but I'm bad at understanding social cues, I guess, because they massaged my foot, and then some other guy like started massaging my neck, and I was like, oh, this must be like at the nail salon where you're getting your nails and like you also get this. But why would I think that this is included? And then he did my head and my arms, and I was like, wow, what a deal for a foot massage. And at the end, they're like, yeah, that's like you got the whole full body $100.
Okay,
like, you know what? That's on me. I should have seen that coming.
How long did the whole massage take?
30 minutes.
Okay.
I did a 30-minute one, yeah.
$100. Nice.
Okay, my other update, because I didn't want to do this on like a serious CEO episode, but I was going to give the listeners my dating update.
Please. I know, we haven't caught up in so long. I feel like I don't know the latest.
Well, this is the same woman. I did talk about this, I think, on the John Scholes one, maybe, or maybe I left this part of the story. But I was on a date with a woman, and there were jugglers at the bar, and I was like, oh my gosh. I want to juggle with you. So that was the juggling story. But that woman I kept seeing, and I think we'd seen each other for like about a month. And I was like, hey, like, what are you looking for? Because I'm looking for something serious, like a relationship. And she was like, oh, I'm kind of looking for something casual. Like, I just started dating women. Like, I just want to explore. And I was like, Totally. Me too. Forget what I said before. Scratch that. I'm totally casual. I'm gonna just tell my parents you're not gonna meet them tonight. Let's definitely do that. And that lasted about like 3 days. And you know me, I'm not that casual. So
sure, but it's good to know that about yourself. You know, ask for what you needed.
Yes. Well, and this does break my streak of going after unavailable women.
Okay. So that's a good change,
right?
Yeah, I do feel like this juggling story being involved with this it's like 2 on the head as a metaphor for like what you're dealing with. Maybe you need to juggle one ball.
Oh, Sensei Nick, thank you so much. Okay, anything else from you before we get into the stories?
Not a whole lot going on in my life. I guess I was just on Vashon Island. I had a friend visit who used to live here, and we went out to Vashon for a couple days, and it was beautiful, peaceful.
Did you catch the ferry back? Sometimes it's hard to get on that one back.
We did. Yeah, we did. This was just Tuesday, so.
Okay, you didn't have troubles. Good.
No.
Okay, well, we're recording here at Labor Temple, which is a co-working space / meeting and event space in Belltown, and it has this lovely little podcast studio. So Nick and I are testing it out because we are actually kind of in business together. We have a couple clients that are interested, some companies that want to produce their own podcast. So we are pitching our services to help them get up from like ground zero all the way through their first episode and kind of all the pieces to that. So one thing we wanted to research was the different podcast studios in town. We've been to most of them, but this is one we hadn't been to. So we wanted to check it out, and we appreciate them letting us use the space. So yeah. All right. What are we going to talk about today? I am going to update everybody on what's been going on in the news because I've been away. So we do have 7 stories. I know that sounds like a lot, but we're going to go pretty quickly through kind of the latter half of the stories. But there's 2 sections we'll start with, which is, first of all, I've been seeing so much about the millionaires tax, and I didn't fully really understand what it all was about. So I'm ready to give I'm going to pitch to Nick what it is, because I researched this part, which you probably already know some of it. And then he's going to pitch to me everything about the light rail, because I didn't do any research on that.
I'm excited to learn. And
then it's like a group project, kind of like everyone has their section. We'll talk about Starbucks and their stupid fucking idea with ChatGPT. I cannot wait. Apple has a new CEO, Tomboy X. We had her on, Fran Dunaway. She was on an episode a while back, and there's some news there, so I wanted to cover that. We'll talk about some Little Red Hen drama. The girls are fighting, for sure. And then lastly, there's going to be a new rooftop bar here in Seattle. So are you ready to get into it, Nick?
Let's dive in.
Okay. I'm going to do my best here.
I did want to say, sorry, before we start,
yes,
actually, I have
please.
something very important.
Okay.
In the studio at the Labor Temple, we have there's a couple different configurations of how you can be set up, and we picked the Tonight Show with Rachel Horgan setup. So she's in a main chair. She doesn't have a desk, I guess, but we could get a desk. And then I'm on this long couch. So stick around to see what other guests come out through the course of the episode and what the musical act might be.
Oh, it's just me.
Yeah, it's you juggling.
It's me juggling. I know. And I actually, okay, side note, speaking of that, do you daydream about being on a late night talk show? I think there's 2 types of people.
Yeah, you've told me about this. I think I used to do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've realized I always dreamt about being famous and I imagined myself on a late night show.
Sure.
And so far I've realized that not everybody thinks that way. One of my friends who's a musician does, but I don't know if that means something.
What does it say about you? Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. On the late night show today, we're talking about the millionaires tax. So it's a 9.9% income tax on people that make more than $1 million a year. Reminder, Washington doesn't have an income tax. So this is part of why this is a big deal. And it is per household. So if somebody makes $600,000, somebody else makes $600,000, that would get you into the bracket where you have to pay this 9.9%.
On
your income.
On the 200,000 above.
Yes.
Correct. Yes. Above 1 million.
Tax would be, in that case, the 200,000.
Yep.
Thank you. And the other part of this is that there's a lawsuit. A group of business owners say, hey, this violates the Washington Constitution because we have this law that says you can't tax on income. I want to also give some color to the other taxes that are happening here, which is part of why I think some people are against this, especially the business community, is that there's the Washington Cares payroll tax, which is the individual pays 0.58% on everybody's paycheck. So everyone that has a W-2, you're getting 0.58 out of it. There's the Seattle Social Housing, which passed last year, which is the business pays 5% on anybody that makes $1 million or more. And this is a city tax. So I know that sounds similar to the income tax. I feel like I'm already confusing people. But And then you have the jumpstart tax, which was a while back. And that was kind of coined the Amazon tax because it was really geared towards them paying more. So it was based on any company that has payroll more than 7 million. They had to pay a percentage tax on employees making more than 150,000. So essentially like almost all of Amazon's employees or any employer that makes more than 7 million in payroll. Then you have the B&O taxes, which I've talked about, I have to pay, which is based on revenue, not profit. And then you obviously have your federal taxes. So if you're an individual, the only thing that really affects you would be the millionaires tax, like you said, of over the million. And then the Washington Care, which is 0.58. So if you're an individual, you're just a rich person, that's kind of what you're looking at. If you're a business owner who's also making more than $1 million, that's where I think this reputation of Seattle not being very business friendly comes into play, because now you have a lot more of these taxes, and this just feels like one more thing. I'm going to do quick pros and cons, then I welcome your opinion here. But is this making sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good layout.
Okay. So the pros, we rely heavily on sales tax here because we don't have an income tax. Sales tax hits a lot of lower earners. It hits a lot of people, and this shifts the burden to people that are rich and can afford it. Another pro is that it funds things that we need to build a workforce. And do you know more of like what it actually goes towards?
Yeah, I was looking at the plan put out, I think by the Washington Democratic Party, and it was primarily funding, I think it was going toward the general fund, which includes like K-12 education, healthcare, higher education, human services. And there were some reasons too why we've been at a budget deficit in those areas and other reasons. And those included broadly like changes in federal policy and more people using social services, basically because of an aging population, because of wage inequality, like whatever it may be. So yeah, there are reasons why they're trying to fill the budget deficit with a tax like this. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're saying like this goes back to building a workforce. Like this all comes back to helping businesses. The last pro I was going to mention is that the threshold, some people think the threshold is high enough where that it isn't going to tax some of these people that are struggling. It is truly the high earners. The concerns or the cons is there's the potential slippery slope argument where, okay, we say it's $1 million now, but maybe next year it's 800,000, then it's 500,000, whatever. There's the argument of talent and retention. Maybe we aren't going to get these high-level executives coming in to work at our companies because they won't be making as much if they move over to Seattle, so that can make it hard. And then I don't even know if I want to get into this, but there's the RSU of it all, restricted stock unit. Were you reading? Do you know anything about that? I had to learn about that.
I'm broadly familiar with it. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of tech employees are compensated partially in RSUs.
Yes. So their salary may be like $200,000, but then their stock or their RSUs could be worth more, which would get them over the $1 million mark. So then they would now have to pay this tax, even if they don't take out the stock. Like if the stock is still there.
Is that true? Even when they don't exercise the stock?
I had to look at that multiple times. Yes. And the company that is suing, so I mentioned that there's that lawsuit from the business owners. That is actually a couple who owns a construction company in Chelan County, and their combined income does get them over the $1 million, and they're not so happy about it. So after all of that, I still don't know. I don't feel passionate about it either way. Maybe I would if I made more than $1 million. I am a fan of like taxing the rich, but I'm like, is $1 million the right threshold, especially in Seattle with how we're treating businesses? But what's your opinion? What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, this is very complex, as we can tell. There's a lot of things that have gone into it historically with that, even the state constitution having outlawing essentially income tax, because I think Washington is the only state in the country that views income as property, and therefore it can't be assessed at different rates for different people or different levels. And so that makes it tricky as well, as the state does try to find ways to fill these budget deficits. I think some people who are against it would maybe say there are cuts that need to happen, government is wasteful, yada, yada. Of course, that's probably true to some degree. I think people who are for it probably are more keenly aware of some of the problems that are being caused in the state by being at a deficit and the rising inequality, and this as a way to somewhat offset that. Obviously, it's a lot of, you're making a lot of money if this tax applies to you. And that's not to say you didn't earn it or whatever. Like, I think I saw a lot of think pieces posted on LinkedIn about this topic. And on that platform, of course, most of them are going to be against something like this. And it does have impacts on like the startup community, and when a founder, if they sell their company or something, then all this money comes in at once. I get that. And maybe the carve out could be made in the law that would not have that be true, so that we're not disincentivizing startups from staying here. But I think, yeah, when you look around, it feels like things need to change in society. And I think the takes that I've seen on this that I respect the most are ones that actually offer an alternative to fixing those problems, rather than just saying what's wrong about this thing.
I don't wanna,
Yeah, exactly. So
what should we do instead then? Yeah.
So yeah, just believing that there's like a reason to invest in the society and the government that you live within is a positive thing, and taming down the like individualistic streak that a lot of business owners have, and realizing that they're like part of a broader community and society, I think is an important part of this. I think they've maybe missed out on some of that on the marketing of it all. I don't know who first pitched to call it a millionaires tax, but that alone is obviously like going to be inflammatory for some people. So yeah, if we can focus on ways to fill some of the needs that this money is supposed to go towards, I think that would be a great change or an addition to the conversation.
Yeah, I think it's a good point of, if you don't like the idea, you can still acknowledge that there's a problem, and how are we going to fix it?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of taxes that go to fixing our city, let's talk about the light rail. We can finally go, I was going to say left and right, but east and west is probably the way to say it.
Right. The left and right train just
The left
opened.
and right train, yes, that's what they call it. So enlighten me. What did you learn in your research about the light rail?
So I think this is an exciting thing. This makes me excited about Seattle. The Cross Lake Connection, as they're calling it, opened up.
Okay.
So the 2 line on the east side, which goes roughly from like Bellevue to Redmond, has been open since 2024, with new stops opening at different times in there. The 1 line on the Seattle side and opened in 2009 initially, and now those are connected. So we have a multi-line rail in this city. I like this quote. It was on soundtransit.org. It said, "None of this is unusual from a regional, national, or global perspective, but it is new for our region. In fact, to this point, our region has been unique as the only multi-line, non-interlined system on the West Coast." So now interlined meaning
so
you can get from one to,
Yeah, we had different things that weren't connected in that.
Exactly. So they operated independently. Now this also, just from an engineering perspective, this train going across a floating bridge, which is the only one in the world, I believe.
I was going to say, yeah, that's what I saw, first in the world.
So cool. That's
very
awesome.
Cool.
And I actually haven't gotten on it yet, even though I have so much excitement in my voice. I look forward to getting on it soon. And then to connect it to like a business podcast, which we find ourselves on now.
Yes.
In theory, it makes commuting easier for someone who might work on the east side but wants to live in Seattle, or vice versa. Tourism, too, I think would be benefited from this, and just the light rail expansion in general would just make that a lot easier, especially with having such large venues and businesses, of course, in the core downtown and then Soto region of the city. Like having a way to get people in and out without needing a bunch of parking spots and places for cars to go, I think is overall a really beautiful thing to see. So I have some other stats and stuff, but do you have any reflections so far?
I mean, yes, I'm excited, and I selfishly wish we had something that went west over to like Ballard and Fremont and Queen Anne, because for me
cool.
to try to get to the airport or anything I can't do any kind of light rail.
Right.
So it's interesting that was more of a priority, but probably because, like you said, there's so many more businesses out there that there's going to be a ton more employees that are taking that. But yeah, I think it's exciting. It's very cool. And I think being first in the world is very cool.
Right. Yeah. And that was actually, I think, part of why the opening of it was delayed by, I think 2023 was the original planned opening of this, but there were construction delays because of some stuff that had to be replaced on the bridge to make it safe.
Which, thank God they stopped that.
Yeah,
right. I don't know. What is it? Work fast, break things? I don't think that applies.
Not in mass transit. Yeah.
Yeah. Hit me with some stats.
So the 2 line itself is 14 miles long. Okay. There are currently 10 stations, and service is every 8 minutes in peak hours. When the 2 line began connecting to Seattle, that ramped up. And one of the cool things about the 2 line, because the 2 line now, you can technically get on the 2 line pretty far north, and then at International District Chinatown Station is where the 1 and the 2 split off. ID train goes to Judkins Park Station, which also newly opened at the end of March. And then the 1 line, of course, keeps going down towards the airport. So in theory, if the trains are running on time, during peak times, they'll come like every 4 minutes instead of every 8 now because there's 2 different lines on the same track. So there was this whole explainer on soundtransit.org about like, you can be a savvy transitor even if you don't want to get on the 2, if it shows up first, you can get on it and just make sure you get off at ID and then continue on your way, like that sort of thing. So yeah, it's cool that it exists now and gives people more options to see the city, check out new areas. In theory, more businesses will pop up along these new stations as well, and maybe housing units. Yeah, it's cool.
My friend who takes the ferry a lot calls that getting a bonus ferry. Like when the one you're trying to catch, the other one is actually late, so you end up getting that one.
Oh, yeah. I like that. Little ferry anecdote, by the way. I was reading before the bridge was built, the floating bridge, now I-90, it was built in like the 40s. And before that, there was ferry service that got people from Seattle to Mercer Island and Seattle to like what we call the East Side.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that makes sense. Yeah. But did you know that the horn at the Kraken game and the Torrent game is a real ferry horn? It's from a decommissioned ferry.
Yeah. Amazing. It sounds like it is. It's very loud.
It is. Okay, moving on. Or do you have something
Let's hop on that train. Let's keep going.
Hop on the train to Starbucks. Okay, so Starbucks launched. People probably saw this because it was like national news. A beta app that's inside ChatGPT to where they can ask Chat. It's so stupid. They can ask Chat, hey, Chat, what should I drink at Starbucks today? Or the examples, I kid you not, the examples they gave was, you can now ask Chat, what drink goes with my outfit? I'm sorry. Is the problem we're trying to solve in the room with us? What problem could we possibly be solving with this? And then it was like, or I want something tropical and sweet and non-dairy. What should I get? And then it'll walk you through. Right now, you have to switch over to the Starbucks app to actually order it. Right. But I talked to my friend who works there, and this is just her theory. This is not like a Starbucks statement. But she was thinking like it probably is working towards a place where you can eventually be like, hey, Siri, order me a latte, and it show up and whatever, all that. But I'm like, is that the goal? I want to talk to a barista. Like, and these things are things you can ask a barista. I know some people don't like social interaction, but like, how far are we going? I don't know. I could go on about this. What do you think?
I love you have this strong of a reaction. I mean, I agree it's completely gimmicky. And I think to your point that your friend shared, that was my thought too. I'm like, this has to be in the direction of doing that, where it's like, yeah, hey, order my Starbucks. And then it just says, okay, it'll be ready in 10 minutes at this address. Mm-hmm. That would be convenient for some people. Like the people that are so busy, they can't, even take one spare stop in their day to talk to a barista and such. So there is a use case there potentially. I think, for ChatGPT, obviously they want people to view their app as like a super app. Basically, like you can use all of your apps within ChatGPT now. Like that's the future they want to get to anyway, of course. So people are more incentivized to use their thing than other ones. But yeah, the thing there is pretty gimmicky. I will say another detail in this article, I think it was the GeekWire article from Kurt Schlosser. They talked about the green dot assist. Did you see that in there?
Yes, and I was part of my roasting with my friend was like, could we, use AI to help the baristas? And then I saw in the article, yes, there is AI that is helping them with like finding recipes or fixing things that break, like that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I think that's a useful way to implement AI. Like it sounded like it'll be on an iPad, like in the store. So it's basically a training manual like on an iPad, and in theory more accessible, easier to use when you're like busy and trying to figure out, because they do have like pretty complicated menu now. Yeah. So and they, are rather against unionization in their stores, which I think means there's a lot of new employees like they're doing a lot of turnover, and that would mean people need to get trained, and if they feel like this is a way to make that experience better for the employee to feel like they have, something to reference while they're working. Yeah,
I'm all for that. If there's something that's helping them, go for it. I just think it's also like, Brian Nickel, read the room. Is this what you're going to announce while you've got, I think it was last year, we had a bunch of the baristas were on strike. Mm-hmm. And then we have all these layoffs. Another announcement this week was that there were layoffs in the technology department. And then you have the Pike Place store trying to unionize. Mm-hmm. So it's like, clearly there's some struggle there. And your move is to make it easy so people ask what drink goes with their dress. Like,
yeah, they, who knows how long they've been cooking that up, and it just decided to come out now. But yeah, they're maybe trying to draw some focus from the Nashville move news as well that's coming out of.
Yes, up to 2,000 jobs moving to Nashville in the next few years.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, they brought Brian Nickel in to make big changes, and he is. Like, Starbucks in Seattle, like, it seems like have had a complicated relationship over the life of that business. And now we're kind of in a point where there's not like big fans of Starbucks in Seattle, I don't think. So maybe that's why they want to get away. I don't know. Obviously, I feel for
I
the
think a
people
lot
who
of
work
it's
there.
like the taxes, like we talked about, and
Totally.
how expensive it is, and all of that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they start moving more to Nashville. Okay, moving on.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, this will be pretty quick, but basically Apple has a new CEO. So the CEO was Tim Cook, probably sounds like a familiar name to you, and he was there for 15 years. He was the one that was right after Steve Jobs. So Tim Cook is 65 years old. He's turning it over to the head of hardware engineering, John Turnus, who's 50 years old. Tim is still going to stay as chairman of the board, which is very common, and John has been with the company for 25 years. So this looks good to me. Somebody that's been with the company a long time, knows the culture. Also, somebody that's coming from engineering and actually knows how things work, and not just some like ideas guy that's going to make some changes. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think just looking up the same stuff you just shared, and it does seem like Tim Cook, because like Steve Jobs was like the visionary, right? That was like why he was important to the business. Tim Cook was more like operations, like I'm going to optimize things guy. And then this guy is sort of a pivot, maybe back in the direction of Jobs a little bit, where he's like deeply familiar with the Apple ethos and their style. And then, like you said, he has a real understanding of how the hardware works, which hardware is really what sets Apple apart from most tech companies. So yeah, it seems like a good move. Everything I read about it, people are in support of it. So
yeah, it seems like positive news. Okay, speaking of CEOs, our next story, Tomboy X CEO reclaims ownership. So Fran Dunaway, I mentioned this at the top of the show, she was on the podcast, and this was when I was recording at my house in my living room. I shouldn't say house, my apartment in my living room. And she was nice enough to come over and do this. And
that was the first time you'd met and she came over to your place?
I'd interviewed her for my last job on stage, but like...
Gotcha.
Basically, yeah.
That's cool.
It was cool until my neighbors, landscapers...
that's right.
What is it? The hedge trimming,
landscaping,
as they do. Whatever it was incredibly loud, and I couldn't record. And I swear we sat there for what felt like forever. So I always am so grateful for her because she was so calm, and she was like, "It's okay, we can wait." Anyway, so she founds this company called Tomboy X. It's a gender-neutral apparel brand, and it focuses on inclusivity, designed underwear type things. And I just want to give a call out, because when I interviewed on that panel, she talked about how her wife had some health struggles and I think had breast cancer and had to get one of her breasts removed. And she was talking about how there's not a bra for one-breasted people. And she gave some other examples of just things that we don't normally think about. She also said when she was trying to get funding, she was pitching to these guys and they'd be like, well, why do we need that? We have Victoria's Secret. And she's like, well, you don't get it. Because it's, I don't know if you've seen their website, but I have some of their sports bras. It's just like different types of underwear that some people might be comfortable wearing. Anyway, so her and her wife didn't really have a strong background in apparel, but I think they felt passionate about this cause. They start this company, and then a couple years back, they pass the torch. They take a step back. They're still on the board, and they pass the torch over to this woman, Leslie, to be a CEO. Around that same time, they also took on more investors. So Fran and her wife are on the board. This other woman, Leslie, is running it. We've got these investors coming in. And 5 years go by with Fran kind of sitting on the board, and she starts to see that the company's not going the direction she likes to see. And she said in the article that it was feeling a little bit like private equity, and these investors were being very hands-on and pushing it in a way that she didn't like. She didn't give details as to what that meant, but she quoted on her LinkedIn when she posted about it that the magic needs to come back to Tomboy, or somebody had told her that. So what did she do? She found a way to regain, she had minority ownership and then she regained majority ownership, and now she is president. So she's getting in there and making some changes. It's
a cool move. Yeah. I reading up on it too, that VC fund that had gained majority control, they seemed like they would be aligned with them largely. It was called the Craftery, I believe. If it's the right one, they invested $18 million in 2018. B Corp certified. They focus on like things with climate impact. I think they're based in London. And so they're like somewhat aligned with it. But when I looked at their other investments, they're more like consumer goods. They're in like the Not Milk, which is like plant-based milk, seed probiotics, hip peas, like snacks. So I could see that being a conflict too, that they're more focused on branding and moving.
Well, this is a direct-to-consumer product, but it's apparel might be just too different than.
I could see that.
Or they're just trying to like cut costs and make money, and Fran's like, no, there's passion behind this project, you know?
Totally. And I know tariffs have hit things like apparel harder than they've probably hit most consumer goods.
True.
So that could be a part of it too. And she wasn't happy with what they were deciding to prioritize going forward. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
I'm happy for her. I'm going to shoot her a text. I don't have her number. I'm going to DM her. Okay, we've got 2 more stories for you. We have Little Red Hen drama and rooftop bar. Is there one you prefer to explain? Or do you want me to?
Oh, wow. No, I would love for you to.
Okay. So there we are at Little Red Hen, and there's an eviction trial that's being pushed out farther. That's why the article came out. I think I had talked about this a while back, but there was some drama with the dumpsters.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm talking about like high school gossip. There was a deal with the dumpsters, and basically this guy, Dominic, owns Little Red Hen. This other, I think it's a guy, Ruoxi, he bought the property a few years ago. So he's the landlord. So the landlord was like, hey, that little dumpster deal you had with your neighboring bar, because they were kind of sharing costs or whatever. He's like, that's no longer happening. You can't do that deal. So then it had a lot more. It added like $40,000 in cost to Little Red Hen. So that we're already starting off bad with this relationship with the landlord. Then I don't know the real story, but what the argument is that Little Red Hen Dominic owner is saying, hey, I have a lease that goes to 2030. You can't evict me. Then you've got this landlord guy that's like, no, you're month to month. Don't you remember? Like, this is what we agreed on. I don't understand why this is going to trial, because wouldn't a signed piece of paper solve this problem? But
it sounded like it was maybe an informal agreement with the previous landlord that went till 2030 or something.
Yeah.
And that's maybe why some disparity between what the two sides are saying.
Yeah. I saw something where he was like, you tricked me into signing this. So maybe there's something there. One thing that stood out to me in this article is Dominic said when he was frustrated with his landlord, he said in an email, basically like, don't fuck with me or I'm going to come after your family and your daughter. And then later was like, that was a mistake. So I'm not really sure who is in the right or wrong here, but that is the drama.
Yeah, while the tone of that communication was wrong, it occurred in a heated moment approximately 10 months ago and was made in the context of that dispute, was the quote in one of the, I think in the Seattle Times article
that's
by
perfect.
Angela Lim. Yeah, it was like, I acknowledge I said that, and that I'm different now. There's a new me.
I'm better now. I do like dancing there, though. I haven't been there in a while.
I was going to ask that. Yeah. Have you spent time there? I think I've only been there like one time, maybe.
A handful of times. Yeah. It's like a true country dive bar.
Nice.
They don't do line dancing. They do more like two-step. It's one of those ones where like a 80-year-old guy will ask you to dance with you.
And
sure. It's like
that can be fun. Like, unique spaces like that in the city are great. So hopefully they can work it out. I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, with this guy aside, I was talking to a friend and we're just talking about how like we're getting to a place where all these restaurants and bars are closing and we're just gonna be left with chain restaurants and pickleball courts. All I'm seeing is pickleball courts and like Cheesecake Factory and I don't even know.
Yeah.
Red Robin.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Okay. Well, I did decide to end on a good note for this one. Finally, I figured this out. And there's a new rooftop bar. Who doesn't love a rooftop bar? So it's called Solette, or it will be called Solette, and it will be opening this summer. It's the top of Level Hotel, which is an Omni hotel, and that's in South Lake Union. When it does open, it'll be one of the largest rooftop restaurants in Seattle, which, what does that mean, though? One of the largest?
And how many
5?
are there? How many rooftop bars are there?
I don't know. I'd like some more data in that. What I was going to call out is oftentimes you'll hear people be like, oh, come to our rooftop bar, and it's like the 4th floor.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of nice, but like, I want a rooftop.
Right.
This one's going to be on the 13th floor next to the pool, which, you know why that stood out to me? Do you know
Unlucky
this?
13.
No, so I worked at a hotel and I found out that hotels don't have a 13th floor.
Yeah, that's right. I knew that
because
was
it's like
a thing.
bad luck or something.
Right.
So I'm confused how this is on the 13th floor.
Maybe, well, that might not be a overall truth, right? Maybe it's just like in a certain era, a more paranoid era or a superstitious era.
The hotel I worked at was a very old hotel. Maybe they're making it 13 floors now.
Right.
That's something to research for the next episode. Anything you wanted to add to that one?
I just saw it's based and being built by a similar concept in Chicago. So there's one in the financial district of Chicago. So yeah, it seems to make sense picking a spot in South Lake Union. And they said, like, it's not fine dining, just as a great spot to gather, linger, and come back to again and again. So we'll see if that works. Corporate built bars aren't like typically somewhere you want to linger that much. But if they're trying to attract employees and happy hours, maybe someone can rent out the space and, use it for a group outing or something. Then it's great to have that there.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Well, I was also thinking about how M Bar closed last year, I think, or the year before. Do you remember?
I don't know that one.
Oh, it was a rooftop bar in South Lake Union. I can't remember if it was on top of. I don't think it was on top of a hotel. But anyway, I think that it's kind of moving into that to compete with that.
Gotcha. So in South Lake Union is kind of an interesting area, of course, like the Amazon impact, and then now Amazon maybe not going to stay around as long or not as many people. So we'll see how that area advances, but in the meantime, we'll hang out on the 13th floor.
Not me. I don't want to go on the 13th floor. Okay, Nick. So our closing question, we're going to do something different for you because why not? And when I asked what you wanted to talk about on the show today, I asked if there's something you're passionate about. You said the light rail and movies. So I couldn't find a business article about movies. So I'm going to ask you if you've seen any movies lately that the audience should know about.
Well, the business of Hollywood never sleeps, so there's always something to talk about business-wise. I recently saw the drama, Robert Pattinson and Zendaya. Zendaya? I don't know.
I don't know.
She's a wonderful actor, no matter how you say her name. My wife and I saw it at this little theater in Columbia City that had closed sometime during COVID, unfortunately, and then has reopened and is run by like a nonprofit organization now, but they also show sort of blockbuster films. So I guess that's not a blockbuster. They show major Hollywood productions as well. Yeah, so we went and saw it there. I thought it was a ton of fun. I think I went in trying to not know a lot about the plot. The trailer they have, if people have seen it, definitely is like cliffhangery or you're wondering what's going on. I thought it was well executed. So go check out the drama.
Yeah, Sarah Donaldson went and saw it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and you should talk to her. She's like, I need to talk to somebody. I guess they stayed like 25 minutes after the show, like just talking about it.
Yeah, it definitely invites conversation, for sure.
Which, if you remember our last episode about movie theaters, that's what we talked about, is movie theaters should have a better space to like sit and talk before and afterwards. But
totally agree. That's not like the food court at the mall or something. Like, they should have a nice spot that you can kind of go and chill in.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I want to see it. I haven't seen it yet. And I don't have a movie rec, so.
Oh, gotcha. Well, what else is going on? What do you want to finish on?
Oh, I have an event tomorrow. I'm running an event for Alaska Airlines. They're launching their new direct routes to, well, they didn't pay for this commercial. I shouldn't tell them. Rome, Reykjavik, and London. And I'm excited. It's a local event, so I get to kind of play with decor and entertainment and just a little more fun stuff rather than my typical conference. Not that that's not fun, but yeah, I'm going to be doing that. So
awesome. Any keychains given out?
No.
Okay.
No, I'll be scarred. I'm never giving a keychain out. And then next month I've got Boston and Rome. So
that's right. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and then I cool it with the trips for a while.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And you've been to Rome once before, you said.
Yeah, unfortunately it's the one place I've been in Europe. So when they were like, "We're sending you to Europe," it's Rome. I'm like, dang it.
Back at it.
One place, but well, this has been fun, and thank you for getting me back into the podcast seat, back into the rhythm of it. I think next week I'm going to try and get the recording from the conference that I'm interviewing the speaker on wellness and events. So
amazing. Looking forward to listening.
Okay, let's get some deviled eggs.
Let's do it.
This has been The Weekly with production assistance from Nick Patri. If you liked what you heard, rate us and write a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. We love listener feedback, so if you have any story suggestions, comments, or complaints, email us at info@theweeklyseattle.com. Make sure to check back next Sunday for the latest local business news. We'll see you next time.